Okay. Okay. Posting link. Okay. Bam. Beautiful. All right. We're live. We're good to go. Welcome in, guys.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday.
Welcome in. Welcome, welcome. Can you guys hear us? Can we do a sound check? Sound check 1, 2. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear Mike?
Good morning. Good morning. Test. Make sure there's no echo.
Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, cool. So sound is good and we are live. So good morning, everybody. We're starting a little bit late today, so we have to just jump into it. We have a lot to go over this morning. There's a lot going on. We have, of course, kind of the same levels on SPY from yesterday, but we're going to talk about what's going on here. We're going to go into everything that's happening today on SPY, sort of the big demand below and of course, the supply above. We're going to go over what's going on in the queues. I think what's happening in the queues is actually more important than anything else. So we have a lot going on in queues. So we'll talk about what's going on in queues today. And I think a lot of it's is driven by the semiconductor space today, right? So you're seeing a lot of semi movement this morning. And that's going to be a big focus point today is going to be on the semi side. So a lot to go over this morning. First of all, I want to just say welcome in everybody. Hopefully everyone had a nice Tuesday session. Is there echo? Hopefully there's no echo. Hopefully no echo. But if there is echo, nothing we can do about it now, right? We're gonna go through as much as we can, and production quality is I think it's just maybe a small echo if anything. Anyway, so AMD major level, and I think this is one of the biggest things I'm watching this morning is going to be what happens here in AMD, and this is going to be what drives the rest of the market, right? This is the level of all levels today, and this is going to be something I think we should all focus on. Does AMD maintain above this major retest level 162? Okay, and that's going to of course have some impact on Nvidia also moving down with AMD into earnings, but I mean Nvidia also back in major demand here, right? This is the demand from our Tuesday's lows and our Friday's highs. So this is going to be a focal point today, is what does Nvidia do today's session? If Nvidia holds this demand here, market's going to maintain, right? Market's going to hold. But if Nvidia loses this demand and AMD loses this demand, then you're going to see market sell off. So we'll talk a lot about semis today. That's going to be a big sort of a big theme of today's session, and we're going to have a nice pre-market morning. So we have Mike on the mic as we have Mike on the mic. We have Mike on the mic as well. So we're gonna have Mike go over his charts as well as we sort of progress through these tickers, and we're gonna get started in about a minute. We'll get started in about a minute.
Oops, sorry about the typing. That was me for a second. Sorry about that, guys. I'm done typing.
That's you, Mike. What are you typing over there, man?
All good.
All right, cool. So econ data. So today's session. Hold on a second. How many people we have? We have 600 people here this morning. It's 8:37. Everybody's late. Everyone's straggling in and late this morning. It's kind of funny that everyone's a little bit late this morning. That's all right. Let's get started. So econ data. Today's session is Wednesday, August 6th. This morning we have some data to watch out for. Basically just 1 p.m. no auction, and then you have some Fed speakers at 2 p.m. and 3:10. So nothing crazy today. Tomorrow is where things become a little bit more interesting. You have jobless claims 8:30 a.m. You have productivity costs 8:30 a.m. And that's all we have for this week. Pretty light on the econ side. The earnings reports are more interesting. Okay, so yesterday's session in the after hours we had AMD, we had SMCI, we had OPEN, and we had Snapchat report earnings. So pretty big earnings yesterday. I mean, mostly, obviously, the big ones are AMD and SMCI. But OPEN, Open, and Snap are also some ones that the retail traders were watching yesterday. I don't know why they were watching it, but that's what they were watching. So obviously we'll go over AMD today. We'll take a look at SMCI and see what's happening there. And then pre-market this morning, Wednesday, August 6th, we had Uber, Shopify, we have NVO, Novo, down a little bit Novo, DAS, Disney, and MCD, McDonald's. So again, some interesting names this morning. Nothing crazy, but they are some interesting names to keep an eye on this morning. So if you can try to go through as many of these as we can, we'll talk about it. Obviously, of course, NVO we'll look at, and we'll look at Disney and Uber because those are some big ones for this morning session. Okay, tomorrow in the pre-market, you have Eli Lilly. You also have in the after hours, you have TTD, Trade Desk, SoundHound, and then Friday, Fubo to finish off the earnings week. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are gonna dive into this, and we're gonna talk about SPY's chart. But I'm actually gonna let Mike start off this. So Mike, go over your levels if you can, and then we'll go over my levels here in SPY, and we'll see if we're on the same page with it.
Yeah. So from yesterday, you guys know I posted on my watch list. I was watching for the 631.5 breakdown. That was the level from last week FOMC where we bounced. It was a big level from July 21st. And that's the same level I'll be watching today for upside if we do reclaim that 631.5. I do think that longs will come back into the market and we'll see some nice upside back into 633. And then if we break 633, we go to 635. For downside, I'm looking for a break below that yesterday's demand area, also kind of the after hours level where we bounce 627. If we lose 627, we should push back into around 624 is my first level.
Yeah. So SPY yesterday, right? How many of you guys traded SPY yesterday? Did you guys trade SPY yesterday in the chat? Where did you guys trade yesterday? Did you guys trade SPY? I traded SPY. So my main watch off the gate. What did we say yesterday on the live? So I mean, this is why I do these pre-markets, is because sometimes I won't get every trade that we talk about, and one of the biggest things was the breakdown under 631 for puts. We expected this, right? Now, I unfortunately didn't take this trade, but what I did do is I did take the bounce here at 628, right? And this was my second watch in the session was, hey, if we see us selling yesterday from our opening bell, right? Well, it's only good as far as this demand below. And thank God that we did that, because that was the right move, right? So we long back at demand, and there was some upside reversion trades off demand. So this was a solid trade yesterday, right? The demand that maintained us yesterday was 620, really 627, but 628 reclaims the little bit of the whim wham, right? The little whim wham was a result in upside yesterday. So today's session, it's interesting because we are just bound between a big level of supply, which we should be looking for shorts off of, and a big level of demand, which we should be looking for longs off of. So it's kind of like a ping pong day, right? Yesterday's session was the real volatility session. There was beautiful shorts off 631.50, which resulted in downside, but the longs also maintained, right? The longs at 628 maintained, and this is the thing yesterday. If you were short yesterday off of supply, off the 631.50 supply, and your mindset really should have been close out the shorts here, right? Because this is where, again, we knew that the sort of the daily 21 SMA was sitting, right? We also knew that we had the big pent-up demand there from our breakout level from Monday session. And we also knew that there was level there from the Friday highs, with the little pre-market highs on Friday. So we knew that this level was there, right? And so if you missed the opening bell downside yesterday, it's not like you just had to close up shop and walk away for the week, right? It was just sit back, relax for a second, wait for some more opportunities to come in, and then obviously if demand stepped up, you go long. And that was yesterday's session, right? So we went long back at demand here, upside happened. But today's session, you were just, again, bound between the big demand below, right, and the big supply above. That's really what today's session is. The question is, what kind of appetite did we have after a big session like yesterday? I don't know yet, right? So for me this morning, if I see us lose 628 today, I don't think that we should be looking for longs in the market anymore, right? This is my bull bear pivot. Therefore, if we lose this level, downside the market goes down lower, and we go back to 625 is most likely what happens here. If we can hold this demand today and we go back higher here, again, you don't want to be long back into that 631.50, because this is the same supply from yesterday's session. So be careful of that 631.5 today, as it may result in some short-term rejections. So again, what I'm really saying here is be careful of the demand below, right, and the supply above. That's really what today is about. Now, if you see us break and hold above 631.5 today, then you know that there is some appetite for longs and we go back higher, right? That would be the best case scenario for longs. But again, that's kind of difficult, right? Because as of right now, the market is on a very flimsy gap up over demand here. The only thing that's going to get me to go long in this market is really going to be this. If this happens, that's my long trade here in SPY. If this happens, that's my short trade here in SPY. I don't really intend to trade SPY in between the zone from yesterday's lows and yesterday's highs. Very important, right? I don't intend to trade SPY in between the zone of yesterday's little, really entirety of yesterday's session was 632.50 and 627, right? So it's difficult to trade SPY in the zone. If I'm looking to trade longs on SPY, it's really got to be above, at least above this high, or shorts at least below this low. And I think that's what I'm going to do today's session here in SPY. Stay away from it as long as it's in between yesterday's range, right? So moving on. Qs. On the Qs chart, the ES chart. So ES chart yesterday, same idea, right? So on the ES chart, it was about the 63.55 breakdown. If you caught the shorts, congrats, right? But the real sort of demand bounce yesterday happened at lows. Here you saw some demand step in here, 63.16, right? That was yesterday's lows of the session. We pushed higher back into a level here that's 63.30. That's where we sort of took a lot of our position off in longs. And then we sort of stayed range bound for a while, but then again, we maintained demand again a second time and ripped up higher after holding that level. So today's session here on ES, if I'm watching for anything in ES, it's really going to be saying, I don't want to trade ES in between this 63.55 and this 63.13. Everything in here is a dead zone, right? This is the dead zone. This is where you have a graveyard. I would stay away from the graveyard zone. If I'm looking for anything, look for a break and hold above these highs for upside or below these lows, the previous session lows for downside. Really, that's what I'm watching today in SPY and ES is looking to see if we can break and hold above yesterday's highs or yesterday's lows, because if we do, then I'm looking for, and really what I'm saying yesterday's highs, notice that I'm not really going over to here to 63.70 because I obviously I know it's the highs of yesterday's session, but this is the real level. The real level is 63.55 on ES or that SPY 631.50, right? It's not really 632.60. That's sort of getting me to not trade SPY today. It's this supply here that's not getting me to trade SPY today in between this zone to here, right? See what I'm saying, right? I don't want to be trading longs back into this big supply zone, right? So that's really what SPY and ES are doing this morning. Again, I would stay cautious. Yesterday's session was a bit tricky. A lot of people probably got chopped up yesterday. If you didn't catch the opening bell downside, catching longs, it was good, right? But it was still choppy. It wasn't a sexy little tap level and rip all day. It was a tap level, a little rip higher and stayed balanced for a while, then upside, right? So it was not as beautiful as the downside yesterday. So be careful trading SPY today. I think it's going to be a bit of a trickier session today going into our Wednesday morning, okay? On the Qs, Mike, I'll let you go over Qs. Mike, you there?
Yeah. So QQQ, 558 and 563. Those are the levels I have.
Yeah, exactly. So 563 as your supply, and then what was your demand?
558.
558. So that little pre-market low. I wonder, is there anything else there? Yeah, I see what you're saying. 558 is a level, right? So for me yesterday, I'll tell you this, right? One of the main reasons why I went long in the market yesterday at demand was not only just because of SPY, but it was also because of Qs, right? So if you guys remember, I actually went long SPY here, right? So I long SPY at this, I long SPY initially right here, right? At 628.3. Then I stopped down in SPY at 628.7. I then ended up re-entering SPY on this red candle right there. And the reason why I did that, and I scalped it here, I scalped it here again, and I scalped it here again. So a lot of trades on SPY yesterday. But the main reason why you could have done this on SPY yesterday was not just because of SPY, it was also because of Qs, right? Look at the QQQ chart yesterday. Look at what it did. It pulled back right into 560 demand yesterday, which is the demand we spoke about pre-market, and maintained it all morning. As long as QQQ 560 is maintaining for me in the market, this is still a demand hold, right? You can see the beautiful taps, 560, 560, 560, and 560. Now, sometimes this happens all the time on SPY. You guys probably see it too. Sometimes you have a level in SPY like this. So you have a big demand zone in SPY. Maybe it's like SPY 500, right? And you are looking for longs off SPY 500 after a big upside day on Tuesday. SPY pulls back to your level here on Wednesday session. It pulls back to it. and you wonder, damn, why didn't SPY bounce at 500? Why did it bounce at 499.5? Why did it bounce there? Well, maybe it was because not just because SPY 500 was just insignificant. Maybe it was because Qs had a big level that Qs had to test, right? And so finally, Qs tested that level, then SPY bounced, right? And of course, you look at this as a liquidity grab, and you're wondering, damn, I missed the trade, right? What happened? Sometimes, what I'm trying to explain here is you have to watch Qs as well as SPY, especially when you're trading SPY or you're trading Qs. You must watch the other one because it's going to tell you things that you are missing on the chart you were trading. And for yesterday's session, it was QQQ 560. As long as Qs were holding 560, market was maintaining demand. And that's what the market had to do. It had to pull at this level for it to find liquidity and then obviously rip higher. So today's session here in Qs, for me, we are bullish as long as we are above 560. Okay, so if we are doing this today, a little bit of a 560 maintenance today, this is a bull case thesis. Okay, if we lose 560, then obviously downside the market back into 558. That's the level Mike was talking about. Then under 558 downside, and this is just a dead chart, right? If we lose 558, then I think that we are just dead, and there is nothing in the market to be watching out for, right? If we lose 558. That's it, right? Close your books. The bulls are dead. Okay, that's just simply what the market. That's simply what I'm watching today in Qs. I think Mike was also watching the 563 level, right? You said 563.
Yeah, 563 reclaim should push back into that 566.
Right. I like that a lot too. So if we do reclaim this level, 563, then obviously upside back into that 566 level that Mike was just talking about. So there is some potential on Qs and SPY today. I honestly, looking at the chart, I think that we can draw more conviction and more. I think we can draw more. I think Qs gives us more clarity than SPY today. I think it's super clear, right? You can look at the chart this morning and you can say, you know what? I don't want to trade SPY. I don't want to trade Qs. I don't want to trade the market as long as we're in between this box, right? This zone right in front of us is your dead zone. Okay, so if we are in the dead zone here on Qs, you don't really want to be trading it. Right? You want to be looking for us to clear out the dead zone above 563. If that happens, that's your long trigger in the market. If you lose 560, that's your short trigger in the market for downside back in 558 and possibly below, right? So in between this dead zone, I would stay away from today here on the Qs chart. Right. So moving on. Let's move on. Let's go over next chart. Mike, I'm going to let you start off the ticker. Which one do you want to go over?
Let's start with Apple because plan Trump to make an announcement about Apple today.
Apple. Okay. Interesting chart. What are you watching?
Yeah, they're getting some Apple to boost U.S. investment commitment by $100 billion. So they're getting some news pre-market, pretty strong. You guys can see here, pretty strong here in the pre-market. So. Maybe a retest that 205 area, that high from yesterday for a potential long. We'll see. We'll have to see how it opens, but yeah, it's definitely strong pre-market here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I see this right now as like that major supply at 207. I think it has to clear out. So that's something we can keep on the back. It's actually a nice chart, right? We can watch this today. Is that especially if you don't want to trade SPY or Qs today, right? Use Apple as one of your trades, right? Above 207, break and retest trade here as upside back into 212. I can see that as a very clear trade this morning. It has to clear above that 207.50, right? That Monday rejection point. The Monday, remember Mike, we were watching that 207 level for reject, and it pushed into 207 and failed it. That same rejection spot that Mike and I are watching on Monday, we are at here. We're there right now, right? So with all this news this morning, we're right there here on Apple. In order for this to really see sustained upside, you need to see us clear back above that 207.50. So this could be a watch today. Either 207.50 break and retest, or I think Mike, you were saying 205 bounce.
Yeah, it kind of depends how it opens, but yeah, it needs to reclaim that 207 for upside.
Right. So we can. I mean, if you're looking for sneaky entries here, you can look for that 207. That basically Mike is saying look for longs at that previous high if it holds, right? So. To see what the market does this morning, but this could be a watch this morning as well, is just to see if we can get some early morning entries here off 205. But I think the highest conviction trade is going to be if it gets above this 207.50, right? If it can clear above that rejection, if it can clear above these highs over here, right? The highs of Monday session, that's where we get some more sustained upside. So watching that to clear out today, that could be a nice watch this morning. Okay, AMD. I think this is what we should all be watching today, right? I mean, this is it, guys. This is really it. Does the market have upside in the tank today? Is this going to be what's going to happen today in the market is determined by what AMD does. And I know people are going to probably be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Why does AMD control the market? Usually AMD doesn't control the market. It usually doesn't. But this is a post earnings day in AMD, and AMD is sitting at a critical demand here. So that's why AMD is controlling the market, right? AMD right now at this morning is sitting at the major level that we've been talking about for weeks. We said AMD during the July 31st, even July 30th, right? We said AMD at some point in time is going to have to pull back to what level? 162. Do you guys remember that? Remember for a long time we were saying AMD has to pull back to 162 to find liquidity, right? And that's going to be your best possible long entry. We said it over here, right? This is when it looked like we were never going to pull back. Now this morning we are sitting at the level that we thought we were never going to pull back to, but of course if we did pull back to, right? So 162 is the level. Now this morning we must hold this level for longs. So today's session, if you're looking for anything today in AMD, it's got to be a long opportunity off 162. That's it. This is what it has to be. You're looking for longs here at 162 for us to hold. If we do, upside the market. That's simply what it is. If you lose 162, downside is very likely, and this is a aggressive chart back down into, in my opinion, back into 150. Right, so AMD is setting up for a big move. That's why I think this is going to control the market today. Right, watching to see what AMD does at this major 162 pivot, either bullish back into highs or bearish back into lows. Okay, as of right now, of course, this is bullish. Nvidia, Mike, do you have anything on Nvidia?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm watching the same thing on AMD. Ideally, we would get a little flush and reclaim that 162, but it's a big untapped level, so. Nvidia 176. That was the breakout level from Monday. We saw some nice upside there. I think if Nvidia loses 176, we see more downside back into 174 and then 171.
Yeah, I think that the idea yesterday on Nvidia was really 176, right? So this is again was one of the reasons why we went long SPY 2 back in demand was because you had Nvidia pulling back to this key pivot, right? You can see 176, 176, 176, 176. Now, like AMD, it's also similar to Nvidia, okay? Well, this is what I'm watching. If this is holding this 176 level today, this is your long spot, okay? So if you hold 176, market's not going to sell off. The market's going to hold. If we lose 176, then market probably sells, especially if you see Nvidia lose 176 and AMD in tandem lose 162. That's where you can see some more sustained selling on SPY. But as of right now, this is still a demand hold here, right? You see a high formed here. You see a breakout level from Monday's session. And all we did was form a low on Tuesday at the breakout level. So that's what happened. Market maintained demand yesterday, right? Market maintained, Nvidia maintained demand. Now today, here in Nvidia, you want to see this lose 176. If you do, downside. Or we hold 176, and then we see us go right back to 180, right? And of course, 180 is big supply. Don't be long back to 180. Don't be a rhino, right? Wait for 180 to break. If 180 breaks, big squeeze higher, back to 184. So if you're watching the video today, look for either a break and hold above 180, or look for a break and hold below 176 for puts back into 171, 170, okay? SMH. I think the SMH is very clear. So the SMH this morning, I think Mike and I were talking about this a little bit too. The SMH is in a massive head and shoulders, right? So pre-market yesterday, we spoke a little bit about this, and this is what's kind of scaring me in the market this morning, is this big head and shoulders. You can see it, right? You see the left shoulder here at starting at 282 and goes higher. The left shoulder formed. You see the head here, and you see the right shoulder forming right now. So this is a not so beautiful for longs on semis. So I know I'm kind of saying, okay, I'm talking about longs at AMD and longs at Nvidia, right? And these are holding demand. But the problem is the sector itself is weak, right? And that's part of the description of the live stream this morning is the idea that semis are weak right now, right? Semis are sitting at demand, but demand doesn't always hold. There are moments in time where demand breaks, and once demand breaks, the stock's going to sell, right? And looking at the SMH sector this morning, the demand to watch out for is 283. So if you see that the SMH or semis itself cleared under 283 today, you're going to see sustained selling in the market, and sustained selling specifically on the SMH. So watch this chart. If this can clear under this low over here, right, 283, you're going to see the neckline break on semis and the downside move back into 275. So keep this on the back burner. And this is what's kind of keeping me cautious from going long today. Yesterday, I went long SPY. I went long SPY back at demand. Today's session, we're holding demand here in Qs, but then you look at Nvidia, you look at AMD, like okay, they're holding demand, but semis are very weak. And so if you do see us lose to 83, I don't really want to be long in the same demand I was long yesterday, right? So keep that in mind today's session. 283 breaks today on semis, you're going to see sustained downside across the market, right? That's something we must understand about today's session. Now, of course, if we hold this demand zone, then obviously it's good for longs and we go back higher. But of course, just keep an eye on this little head and shoulders formation here on semis. Okay, let's do Amazon. Mike, do you see anything on Amazon?
Amazon, since their earnings report has just kind of been chopping around. Honestly, for me, it'd have to reclaim 220 for longs and 212 for downside.
Right, I agree. This is a pretty dead chart recently. I mean, you saw that aggressive downside day from like that post earnings. 220, 220, 220, big pivot. Yeah, I agree. 220 has to reclaim. This can reclaim upside, but as of right now, it's just mostly downside facing. I think Amazon's going to give you one of those random pops, though. I just kind of feel it, right? You can kind of like, it's going to do it eventually, right? Because what's going to happen here is you're going to have a lot of people that sort of short this chart in this little downward descending channel, and I see it too. But Amazon's going to give you a weird pop, right? And you saw it yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw the weird pop yesterday, but you see it. Yesterday's session, you saw that aggressive high volume pop off the open, and the market didn't like after it had that aggressive pop, it held, right? The aggressive pop was maintained. You can see aggressive pop followed by a hold, followed by a hold, followed by a hold, right? The market didn't find shorts at these highs and then sell it back under lows. So for me on Amazon, my expectations here is that we're gonna see a big pop on this at some point this week, right? Probably maybe even to next week. It could be Thursday, it could be Friday, it could be sometime next week, and it's gonna catch you off guard. So what I'd be watching for on Amazon is I'd be looking to see maybe if it can clear above 216. If it clears above 216, this could be a nice long opportunity back in highs here 220. So I know I just said look for longs at 220, but if you want to look for some sneaky early entry longs here on Amazon, it's going to be back above that 216, right? So if you can clear above 216, above that Tuesday's highs, look for longs back at 220. Of course, if you clear 220, then at that point, then it's just a beautiful long chart back in the highs. This could be a nice gap fill trade back into the 231 because above 220, if you zoom out for a second here, above that 220, you're going to see this. There is a massive gap to fill here, right? So you can see above 220, there's a gap to fill until 230 here on Amazon. Okay, so keep that on the back burner, right? Let's move on. Mike, Meta. I'll let you do Meta because I hate Meta.
Yeah, Meta, it's just 785, honestly. Like the 750 bounce, we talked about that last week and it worked. But now it's 785. It can break 785. It can see more upside.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing for me to add there, right? I mean, it's just 785 key supply. Moving on. Netflix
is actually breaking. It broke demand yesterday. 1160 was the big level. We're back below that. I don't really plan on touching this name.
Okay.
1160 is the level, though. It has to hold. Yeah.
1160. I see exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, that's that big supply. It has a huge demand there, right? Highs and highs and highs break at level. And then obviously lows for a while. And we're now underneath that level. So the bull bear pivot that Mike's talking about is this right here, right? It's 1160. If we're under 1160, where does it go to though? Where is it? Where's your next big level?
Man, the next level I have is 1100.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's a dangerous chart here on Netflix. Actually, that's a really dangerous chart.
Yeah.
NVO. I mean, NVO mostly long-term guys for me. I think Mike's in the same boat. I'm watching for some ads around 40, and that's where I'll be sort of building the rest of my size. So don't worry about NVO. It's a little bit in danger zone, but don't worry about it. Okay. UNH. I shouldn't say don't worry about it, but just get ready to buy more. UNH. For me at least. UNH downside. I mean, this is a pretty weak chart. I don't really like this chart. It's really just it's kind of it's ugly, right? I mean, 220 is where I'd expect demand to step back in again. Carlos, thank you, Carlos. Also, we had from trucking to day trading. Thank you very much, man. Much appreciated. I'll do Coinbase. Coinbase. Actually, Mike, you do Coinbase. I'll let you do that one because I don't even have any levels here.
Okay.
I have very unupdated levels.
Coin. Okay, so they reported earnings on Thursday. They crushed actually. but let's see. 280, actually 270. 270 is the big daily level. If it pulls back into 270, could look for longs there.
270. Oh, well, that is a huge
Yeah.
level. That is a huge level. I see what you're saying. So you're watching
Huge.
270 for longs.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't really trade Coinbase, but if you guys are looking for a trade on Coinbase, I would look for 270.
270. That makes sense. What about Uber? I don't have anything in Uber. This is all post earnings, but you can see here, I haven't even touched this chart, right? You can see this chart hasn't been touched. This is like a chart that I've had probably since back in June, right? This morning you're seeing reject off that supply that we had drawn over here, which is the little flag highs, and you're seeing it maintain the demand that we had as well, the 8650. So this morning here, I would just say, don't trade it, right? Uber is obviously in between big supply and big demand. That's it. That's all Uber is doing. So even though it's post earnings, I would just keep away from it, right? If it can clear back above 94, upside, back below 8650, downside. Okay. Why do I hate Tesla? You know what? You're right. Why do I hate Tesla? I shouldn't hate Tesla. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes Tesla I forget. It's kind of weird. That's like my weird thing is I forget Tesla. 312. Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps failing that level, but 312 is the level. Honestly, more than Uber though, I think Lyft is the one to look out for. Lyft is 6 billion market cap. The daily chart has this crazy pattern. If it can break out like 16, 17, then I think we see a massive squeeze because it's just such a small market cap.
Lyft. Yeah, for more of a long-term play. I see there's a huge daily trend line here as well. But Lyft, Lyft is interesting. On Tesla, guys, Tesla, I'm watching 312, right? So just like Mike is saying, one of my top watches today really is like, obviously someone has top watches. For me, it's like, it's AMD's top watch, Nvidia's top watch, SPY's always top watch at the levels. But Tesla's top watch too, right? Tesla above 312. If it's clears 312, this is going to be a beautiful upside trade. So keep this in the back burner today, right? This is a nice, beautiful break and retest trade above 312. So I'm watching that for longs today. Okay. Someone really wants bull. Saunders really wants bull. BULL. 15.0 in bull is key, right? So we held that 13.2 level, that sort of demand lows from Friday, August 1st. Ripped up higher off that level. This morning, it's all about that 15.0. If it can clear above 15.0, that's where upside comes in. But right now, we're sort of right at that key level. And could you argue this is kind of dangerous here? Could you argue this is a head and shoulders, right? I mean, I could see it. You see a little left. Just go to 1 hour timer so you can see it better. But no, not really. I mean, if it clears above 15.0, we're fine. This is what has to happen. You must see BULL clear 15.0 now, right? After it just maintained this low here, where you can see we had this is really important. You have a low formed here, okay? You have a low formed here. You had a low formed here. So we have our low formed, right, at 13.2. So we know this is bullish as long as it's above 13.2. At this point, it has to clear above 15.0, because if it doesn't clear above 15.0, this is going to be a failed breakout and a head and shoulders, right? So you need to see us above 15.0 now. That's going to sustain us higher back into 18.5. Okay, guys, let's call it here. Thank you all for joining in. We had a lot of people here this morning, almost 1,000 people here. I have no idea how many likes we have because I'm watching this on my phone, so I can't even tell. But I'm sure it's under our mark, and that's okay. But I'll see you guys for live trading. Mike, thank you for hopping on with us, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
All right, see you guys on live. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.